Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to ACCA students who are tuning in from all around the world. So pleased for you to join us on today's ACCA results webinar, which has been kindly set up by Nikhil and all the team from the Phoenix team on there. My name's James Wright. I'm an ACCA qualified member from the UK and also ACCA content creator, should we say. And today we've been given a nice little platform where in today's webinar, it's really there to help you guys out and to develop our partnership that the Phoenix Financial Trading Company and myself will be doing more of these webinars and collaborations into the future. And it's all to help out ACCA students so that you can actually hear our insights that could be the difference in getting you that pass for your next up and coming exam. Now, we've just had the actual results day. So we're going to have people on the webinar today and watching the recording that maybe had fantastic news, which is always great, isn't it, Nikhil? Where, you know, they get the mark that they want. But sadly, as we know how tough the exams are and how low the pass rates are, there may be some people watching this who maybe didn't get the result they were looking for. So if you're watching it live with us, feel free to post in the chat, as I said, any questions as we're going through. And if you're actually watching the recording back, leave us a comment at the bottom. Myself, Nikhil, or any of the team will be more than happy to help you out and to guide you to the correct resources that, again, can help you come back stronger to make that little difference that could be the getting of the 50 plus for you on there. So as you can see on the screen, my name's James Wright. I work at the University of Lincoln as a senior lecturer. And for the purposes of everyone here, I am an ACCA member. Thank you for that, keeping me on my toes. And as you can see in the background there, that is the ACCA wall of members. So my name is on there. I went down to the London headquarters, I believe it was in 2018, where they had it up and you can actually go get your photo so that no matter what stage you're at today, if you're just starting on the foundation papers, business technology, or maybe you've only got one or two left, this is one of the things that I always used to think about finishing my final examinations and to think, oh, my name will be up there one day on there. So we're going to go through today. And again, if you want to pop onto the next slide, Nikhil, on there, and it's just to show you as to you get full exposure and honesty whenever I do any of these webinars. So as you can see on the left-hand side, that was me starting my actual trainee ACCA contract, which was working as a just financial accountant in a tax practice as well. My hair's got a bit longer. I don't quite look the same as I used to on there, and that suit doesn't fit anymore. But it just shows you the process as you go through that I'm more than happy to be open and honest with everyone here and for people who watch the recording that I found it really, really tough working full-time and studying full-time, maintaining a work-life balance. That throughout my ACCA journey, I was granted some exemptions from my university degree. I had a study buddy who was my friend Mike there, as you can see, as we attended the ACCA ceremony for the newly qualified members. And for any football fans watching the recording or watching live, I'm a Leicester City fan, so I hope that doesn't offend anyone here as well. But finally, the main thing, as you can see on the right-hand side, which was gaining that certificate, not having any more exams to do, completing my ethics and professional skills module, and having all of my professional experience signed off. And that was me receiving my certificate, which, as you can see, I still actually had my badge on that day. I came in from work and went, oh my word, it's here. Cancel everything. It's one of those, again, moments where you think about the wall and then you think about receiving the certificate. And that's where the little insights today that I'm quite open to say that I was never a global prize winner. I failed exams before. I didn't just fail them with sort of 48, 49. It was really close. It was bad fails, Nikhil. So I'm sorry about that. But hey, you come back stronger from it. And then that's where we get the full transparency that it can help anyone else out who is joining us today. Well, I'll hand it over to you now, Nikhil, to introduce yourself to our lovely viewers who are joining us live.
Thank you for that, James, and thank you for everybody who's joining in as well. I love it that, James, you spoke about that you struggled and you did have some bad fails. And, for me, this, before I talk about myself, I think this word failing an exam or failure, it's very, very close to my heart, actually. Reason being because everywhere that we see, there is only focus on, fantastic results, pass. You see, you open up LinkedIn, Instagram, everybody just talks about you pass and fantastic, and everybody's putting in comments. And it feels very daunting. I know, I can imagine that if you haven't passed, you feel it even worse. It's one thing is that you fail, but the other bit is when there are people putting up so many things. We're human creatures at the end of the day. It rubs it into you even worse. That am I capable? What's going to happen? And the idea behind these webinars, guys, is not really only to say, great, let's just celebrate people passing and success, but it's also, in a way, I like to call it, in a way, embracing that failure and saying, doesn't matter. So what if you failed an exam? That's part of the journey. It's okay to fail the exams, because at the end of the day, what matters is somebody will, when you finish your exams, you will be a qualified chartered accountant. Your name will be there on the board. When you go for a job, nobody will ask you how many times you did SBR, FM, PM, knowledge level papers. So just keep that in your mindset whenever you're trying to study, whenever you feel slightly demotivated. So wonderful, James, that you started with that. And it's good to know that you did fail, but still to see you be an amazing lecturer, award-winning lecturer. You influence so many more people, which is very inspiring to see. And for everybody over here as well, to be able to learn from that and get inspired. I'll very briefly talk about just ourselves. And I would say when I talk about myself, I would talk about Phoenix, because I would say I live, breathe, Phoenix financial training. Reason being, I've been involved now with Phoenix the last 16 years. 3 years as a student, when I was myself a student, believe it or not, at Phoenix Financial Training. So I know what it is to go through the stress. I know what it is to work and study as well. And for the last 13 years, I've been a full-time lecturer at Phoenix Financial Training. And without telling you too much, because the idea is to put the ball in your court today, just want to summarize about Phoenix and what we do for the last 16 years. Is yes, we are platinum approved, which is the highest ranking by the ACCA. But our whole goal, our whole aim is to look after the students. And if you ask me, we're obsessed with the student experience, whether it be from the time they join us, with the tutors, with whether they pass or fail, and genuinely taking care of them. And I don't say this with a sales pitch. I say this because we genuinely believe in these values. When we hire somebody, now I'm lucky enough to be able to be the managing director of Phoenix. When we hire somebody, it's okay if your skills are not the best. Yes, you got to have a certain level of skills, but we want the attitude. We want somebody who cares for the student. And if you ask me, that is what we embody in everything we try to do, whether it be the classes we put on, the flexibility we offer, the online, the face-to-face classes, all of that. Our focus is how can we help the students get through the exam? And don't get me wrong. Yes, we are a profit-making organization. Yes, we make money, but our value system is very, very strong, whereby we are obsessed with the student experience. So that was just something I want to tell you about Phoenix. And you have, of course, you can ask me questions about that. But the idea is to open up the ball should be in your court. But before we do that, I'll just allow James to quickly just go through what the ACCA journey is. You might be at different levels. You might be starting. It always gives you good perspective to have an overall view of what the ACCA qualification is and what is it that you've got to achieve to finish everything. So I'll allow you, James, to go through this very briefly, and then we can open it up for people to ask their questions.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Nikhil. And it's just such a pleasure to be invited by the Phoenix team to be on the webinar today. That I've been following their journey now for a long time. I see the fantastic content they put out, and that's why I wanted to actually be part of the webinars and to collaborate with the team as well. So that's where just little nuggets of information that we chat about today, and take the opportunity to post any questions in the chat. And like I said, if you're watching the recording, because you're going to get the right advice from the team as well, and myself for that matter. But coming on to what we have on the screen, we've been talking about getting to that membership stage and getting that certificate with your name on it, and you can update your LinkedIn with those letters after it. However, there are 4 stages that you need to be aware of. So we're going to have ACCA students joining us at different points in time. So if you want to take a screenshot of this or take a photo, feel free to, as these are the key aspects that you need all 4 of them to get them through. So you've got the 13 exams that you can see up at the top. So we've got the professional papers, and we've got the applied knowledge and skills papers. Then we've got the ethics and professional skills module at the bottom. And then finally, the 36 months of work experience. So this is going to fall into which areas can we best advise on today. So what we'll do is we'll come on to the next slide, Nikhil, because then that's going to break down onto the examination. So for everyone who's joining us live, so that Nikhil and I can get a picture as to who's joining us today, feel free to put in the chat if you are planning on doing an ACCA exam in September, for example, on there. So just pop yes or no in the chat just to say, are you doing an exam? And if you already know which one you're doing, feel free to put that in the chat as well. So if you're thinking about doing tax, just put TX. If you're thinking about doing maybe SBL or SBR, which I know Nikhil is an expert in on there, it'll just be that we can see that, oh, who have we got in at different stages, and then how we can best advise them. So by the looks of it, we've got Simran who's joined us on there, we've got SBR, Mansur's on audit and assurance, Alam's SBR as well, Hanan's FR, Donna's doing FM. So we've got a wide range of students joining us live, which of course, Nikhil, they are all looking forward to their September examinations, and the tuition, the revision stage is on there. So for the record, as you're all going to be approaching certain levels on there, going from one to another, and also planning for in the future. So Amrita's kindly put in the chat at the bottom that they're planning on doing SBR and Advanced Audit Assurance in December 2022. Now, the first thing I would like to get on record to help you out, Amrita, is I would highly advise that, not just for you, but for anyone who's watching the recording, you should do SBR first, probably by itself as well, because it is a very challenging examination on there with standards. And then after you've completed SBR, because that is going to be a massive commitment to pass that, then I would move on to Advanced Audit and Assurance. And the reason for this is because some of the materials in Advanced Audit and Assurance are taken from strategic business reporting. So if you're planning on doing both at the same time, that you're not going to have the underpinning knowledge that is going to be really, really helpful to get you through those examinations. So just to be clear, Amrita, and for anyone watching, SBR first, get it done really to a high standard, and then move on to Advanced Audit and Assurance on there. The next thing that is absolutely paramount, and I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't mention it, is when you are making the jump from the applied skills level. So we've got lots of people here joining us: financial management, audit and assurance, financial reporting, taxation, the corporate and business law, and performance management. Once you've finished those and you're planning on moving on to SBR, SBL, that is the time you need to complete your ethics and professional skills module on there. So when you're just making the jump up to the strategic professional levels and the options, the stats that ACCA release show us that students who complete the ethics and professional skills module before they do SBR, SBL, and whichever options they do, they have a better chance of passing on there. It skyrockets up. So Donna and Hanan, Shruti on there as well, and Malika, pop it in your notes that after you finished your PM, your tax exam, financial management, and maybe you're entering up to thinking about strategic professional in the future, I know you want to put it off. I know you've got other commitments on there, but trust me on this, just block out a couple of hours of your time, do it with a study buddy, have someone hold you accountable to it. It's not a 1 hour job. It's going to be a few sessions to get it through. Use the free resources on ACCA's website, but that is imperative, I would say. So that's my point number 2. So I can now sleep tonight. Point number 3 on here, as I know we've got a couple of people who are doing the tax paper, is it's going to be different, but I'm going to base this on the UK tax paper, is that you have to work out when it is best for you to do the tax paper. And as well, if you're planning on doing the advanced tax paper, which I can tell you now is the trickiest exam I've ever done. So why is this important? Well, because it's taxation, the rules, regulations, and rates change every year and are updated. So for the UK, and if anyone's got a pen and paper to take notes, feel free to. The first exam where the new rates and regulations and allowances are all introduced is the June paper. So we've just had the June paper gone by. If you are planning, and this is where you need to tactically do taxation, I would not do the tax paper in the March sitting, for example, because if you spent all that time doing the tuition, then going through the revision, made all your notes, and say if the result didn't go your way, then, oh, hey ho, I failed the tax paper in March, I've got to resit it in June. I'm afraid that's where you're going to have new rates, new rules, new regulations, could be outdated, and you have to really go through and relearn it again on there. So ideally, June and September, the latest would be December on there. I would not do it in March, just in case the worst happened for you. Really, then the final thing comes down to as to what sort of progression you want to be doing them in. From my experience, hearing from students around the world.
Oh, it's getting recorded.
Oh, thank you, Mohammed. It's all good. For the strategic papers, I would just do them one at a time. Personally, I know there's the rush, and I know there's the pressures, like Nikhil talked about with LinkedIn and saying how marvelous you are. But for your sanity and to create a good balance between working, studying, and everything else that's going on, I would honestly just do one. The step up, going from the applied knowledge to the applied skills, then onto the strategic level, that jump on there is massive. So you'll hear it so many times. It's just so much easier just to do one at a time, fully focus on it on there. But Nikhil, is there anything else that you'd like to add on there, as you deal with students from all different levels? You've seen so many different stories. What sort of things would you say to a student about that?
I think you've covered really good points. I would just, on the back of that, I just want to take a question that Rashi has put up, saying, is it viable to still continue doing ACCA? So Rashi, and this goes back to the question that the point we were discussing about not being successful in the exam at the first go. So first and foremost, there are many people I've been seeing in the last 15 years of my journey, 15 to 16 years, that they do fail knowledge level papers, but don't let it demotivate you. It's okay. Don't let anybody say, oh, you should have only failed the professional level papers. It's okay. I would say take it as feedback. So for example, I'm not saying just sit back and say, oh, everything will be great. If you have failed a knowledge level paper, for example, tax, if you're doing the UK tax or performance management or financial reporting, whichever one you're talking about, even if it's skills or the knowledge paper of accounting and business, management accounting, FA, that's fine. You can always go back to the drawing board and say, what is it that you were not successful at? Is it the questions you were not good at? So is it a case of going and practicing from the revision kit? There are lots of resources available on the ACCA website. You must practice past paper questions, which is critical for the ACCA. Maybe Rashi, what you're used to, because I can give you some advice. I had studied myself in India, in Delhi. The focus is very different, the way you study there, right? It's very much focused on just the knowledge. In ACCA, knowledge is one element. Even though they say the knowledge paper, they ask you these objective type questions where you have to have an understanding of the topic. So it's not about learning just the models in accounting and business, or learning how to do a budget or variance analysis in management accounting, or just learning the steps of double entries in financial accounting. It's about how do you take that and apply that into that exam question. So my answer to you is, firstly, go back, whatever, whether you have a revision kit, if you don't have a revision kit, you can probably purchase one. If you don't, look at the resources that the ACCA have available, multiple resources free available. This is not a sales pitch to you. You can do it for free as well, and practice a lot of questions. Once you do that, then go back and redo the exam. And I definitely see that even if you fail the knowledge exam, doesn't mean you cannot go and progress. Maybe your approach has to improve a bit, Rashi, on that.
Spot on. And just to add to that, I mean, Rashi, it's almost as if we go on to the next slide, Nikhil, this would be the one, Rashi, that I would actually get a screenshot for you, as the Phoenix team kindly asked me as to if I had to do a September ACCA exam paper, what would I be doing? And I echo everything that Nikhil's just said there as to the CBE practice platform that you can see there on point 3, and question practice is absolutely paramount, because there are so many students out there that aren't familiar with the process. They're not comfortable with the actual scenarios and the actual way that things are laid out, so they actually miss out on their time management. The first one on there, point 1, creating a study plan to suit your circumstances. That's where it comes down to every student is different. I used to go to college and there'd be people there who just dropped off their children and they'd been up since 6 a.m. and they've got other commitments on there. So what I would do is I would say, right, here is today, then here is the exam. What things that I just have to do, whether that's working full time, other family commitments, weddings, everything else, and then say, right, you'll work it out going, oh my word, I've actually only got 9 free days to do some studying where I've got no other commitments, where I've got a free day. And that's where the key thing there is that, from my experience and from teaching students, every student operates differently. So you're either a morning person like me, an early bird, where I get loads of stuff done in the morning. That's why when I was saying about this webinar, 1 till 2, that's when I've got bucket loads of energy. Come on till 6 till 7, I'm tired after the day. However, my brother is a night owl. He gets so much work done in the evening. So that's where you get lots of people who say, this is the perfect study plan. There is no perfect study plan. You have to fit it around yourself. And the question you have to ask yourself going away from here, and this is for your professional life, everything to do, is every day we have 3 to 4 hours of full good concentration on there. So in those 3 to 4 hours, you want to pack in the things that are going to add the most amount of value to you. So in that case, it should be question practice to time, going through revision questions, and things where you've got to really focus in on. So that is where, work out where your 3 to 4 hour window is and prioritize that you try and eradicate everything out of that. I get rid of everything out of that so that all my high-end stuff goes into there, whether that's recording, meetings, anything on those lines, that is in there. Nikhil also touched on ACCA's free resources. If you've got a pen and paper, these are the key ones. First of all, as you would expect, the past papers. That'll be the first one to go to. Next one is the examiner's report. So find the exam that maybe you want to do or you are doing. Just read the most up-to-date one. There are so many good nuggets of information in there. If you don't understand a topic, have a look at the technical articles. That is the next key one on there you should be using. And then finally, they also have other really good little PDFs of, because obviously my life is just so exciting that I know about these things, Nikhil. It's all about reading the mind of the marker. So the person who is marking your exam has written a document as to what they're looking for, where the mistakes are made, and what is a bad script. Gold dust, if you ask me, because I never used to have that. I'd love to have that, but so many students just overlook it and go, oh, James, it's not really worth it, is it? Trust me on this, it is worth it. Then finally at the bottom, I mean, we're on a call today where you've got different people doing, and in fact doing your exams. Find yourself a study buddy, or like the fantastic team at the Phoenix as well, where the tutor experience, where you can interact with them, get in touch. They have little groups on there. And the other thing is the accountability, because Nikhil and I well know, and you'll understand when I say the point, it's not everyone feels absolutely 100% every day of the week. Okay, you wake up, a bit tired, maybe a bit, not got full energy today. And it's just having those little nudges from study buddies that other people are in the same shoes to say, "God, James, just what you've got. Have you got an extra hour? Give me a half an hour. Let's see what we can get in there." And then that's where the momentum comes into it. So, and then finally, we talked about making mistakes, but the other key word at the bottom there is commit. Now, there are some students who put off booking the exam. They don't book the exam, and then I get a message saying, "James, is 4 weeks enough time to do SBR and to be confident to pass?" It's 7 weeks from the results day to the next exam. So get it booked, get a plan going, and then you're going to get a better mindset to get yourself to that finishing line of 50% and plus. So if you haven't already, take a screenshot, take a photo of that. That's what I'd be doing if I was in your position there. But it's just all the memories, Nikhil, flooding back of the old student days. But feel free to go on to the next slide on there, Nikhil, because I can see we've got lots of questions already. So I'd just like to take this opportunity as well, whilst we're going out. We've got lots of people joining in live. That a massive thank you to all the Phoenix team who are in the background today. They're not live like Nikhil and I, but without the team on there, this would not happen. There are so many things that happen in the background, little messages, updates, the posts, that the team are absolutely fantastic in the background. And you've got all my details on the screen as well. So I'll be looking forward to getting a message from you saying, "James, I went to that webinar, or I watched the recording with you and Nikhil, and now I got a 50 plus on there." But should we come on to some questions, Nikhil?
Absolutely. So and like I said, James, I'll just reiterate what you said. A big thank you to, sometimes it's like, people just see the tutors or the like you and me delivering the webinar, but there's a lot of work that goes in the background. So, big shout out and thank you to the team, Lizzie, Arjun, and Lizzie as well, Angeline, who's helped with lots of the marketing. So thanks to three of them. We'll take the questions, James. I'll read them out for you. We had the first question. We'll start with the chronological order. So it was about the fact that the name's not written here. It says admin's iPhone, but they failed PM, Advanced Performance Management APM in June, and they're resitting the exam in September. Yep. But they want to just know a bit about the professional marks as well, which, as we all know now, those exams, that is the APM, AFM, as well as the AAA, have 20 marks, professional marks in them. So any thoughts that you could share with everybody on that, which will help anybody doing those exams from September?
Spot on. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, the first thing I would do is, if you go onto ACCA's website, they actually have bespoke little articles that show you where those 20 professional marks are allocated. Now, they get allocated into 4 areas on there, but the key way, just to put it in a nutshell, is that previously we had 100 technical marks that were allocated that you'd be based on, okay? Now it's based on 80 technical marks, and the 20 professional are on the end on there. So the key words from the webinars that I attended with ACCA, because my Friday nights are just full of so much entertainment, is that the words they use they are embedded within those 80 technical marks, and it's a more holistic approach. Now, what that means in noddy terms that I see it is that you're going to have a lot more time in the exam, because what they do is it's going to be the same paragraphs, the same answers that you're writing, the same number of sentences, but they will allocate the professional marks based on those. So they come from everything about your professional skepticism, how you've actually written your answer on there. The way that it's put across is, how are you writing your answer And is it the way you would write an answer as if you were in a workplace? So there's some great resources on ACCA's website. I'll be doing a few more small videos on it, and I know the Phoenix team as well will be, to help their students approach it. But the more practice you get with it and applying it, it's all about application to the scenario at the APM level. So if you have failed APM, which is unfortunate, but you can come back from it, is the first question I'll say is, how did you get on with performance management? Did you pass it just 50 plus, not too far off? Because there may be some underpinning knowledge lacking there. And then secondly, with APM, it is always the CBE platform on there, getting familiar with it, because the external examiner always writes that time management is a massive thing in APM. And then secondly, applying back to the scenario. And that is so critical. So whether that's writing down the company names, showing all your workings, considering the businesses and the environment they're operating, looking at all the variables. Another thing that comes to mind from the professional marks is that there'll be statements in there that are not factual. There'll be some ambiguity to it. You go, oh, hang on, is that right? Is that not right on there? And you've got to have a keynote to get down here: questioning mindset. You've got a professional skepticism, question it, put your questioning hat on, and apply that for admin iPhone on there. So I hope that helps. I've given you about 10 or 12 different things to go away, but put those into play. that could be the difference in getting you that pass on there.
Thank you. Thanks, James. So I think from Malawi, we have a question from Chizomo regarding the AFM paper. Do you teach the AFM paper, James, the Advanced Financial Management?
I help students to pass on it, and I'm just looking for the question in the comments.
So the question, I can read it for you. So what's the best approach in tackling the AFM in terms of structuring the answer and just the entire paper in general? So,
yeah.
So Chismo wants to know that from Malawi.
Yeah, sure, certainly. So if I do the AFM paper on there, the first thing is the professional marks. So they're coming into play. So the first thing is have a look at the specific AFM document for that on ACCA's website. The next thing, and I speak with some of the top AFM tutors, and we have a good chit chat about this. Students who are competent with the computer-based examination format do the best on there. So that's the formulas, how they would lay out different scenarios and questions on there. I believe it's you no longer now have to do the black skulls calculation. That's going to be, actually, they've got a little function on there for you. So if it's not on there, you don't have to do it. If it appears, oh, hang on, we might actually have to do that from now on there. Then it's also the layout of your answers. So in the external examiner's reports for AFM, they constantly write that students take too long laying out their answers and it's not crystal clear. So they write in their reports to say, imagine if you had to mark your own work, how would you lay it out? Because then that's where you get the clearer calculations, which again is another area. Students don't show the workings, but the key thing to remember is that the marker can see in the formula box. So you don't have to waste too much time writing it all out on there. And then finally, the reason why people fail it, again, coming back onto the APM one, was they just do not apply it back to the scenario. And the key phrase I always have for the option papers is, if you're generic, you will fail. If you're specific, you've got a really good chance of passing. But specific means applying to the company, using the keywords from the requirements, and being as detailed as possible, because the examiner would not put that in the scenario if it wasn't going to be helpful for you to answer and put it in your answer on there. So I hope that helps for the Malawi reset. But sorry, there's lots of things that come to my mind, Nikhil, that what I would do.
That's perfect. Thank you, James, for that. We'll take more questions coming in, so that's great to know. So Mansoor, I'll take a couple of your questions that you had. One was regarding you spoke about the entry requirements. So just going to the slide that you were mentioning. So if you can see this screen of mine, but these
Yeah.
entry requirements that you were talking about, they're basically different levels that we have. There is no real entry requirement for the ACCA. You can start without any. That's the brilliant bit about ACCA. You don't have to get a certain percentage or etc. You can be in grade 11, 12, after university. There's no real requirement for that, Mansoor. However, if you've done some university degree, then you get certain exemptions are available to you. So those are you might not have to start from the first knowledge level papers. You might get 3, 4, 5. In some universities in the UAE, if you do your university from certain select universities, you get up to 9 exemptions as well. And taking a second question, Mansoor, so that I can address that as well, is I'll just read it out for you as well, James. It says that he had a question regarding AA. How can you again best prepare for this in September? And unfortunately, Mansoor got a 46. And if I can just take that question, Mansoor, and I'll just mention that because we see a lot of students who do get, in their 40, 45, 46, 47. And people who get that, I say, you know what? Actually, you're very close. You should not be very demotivated. I know it's very disheartening, but that indicates to you that you have the basic knowledge. Where you are probably lacking is the exam technique, the exam style. Maybe you didn't do the OTQ practice. Maybe the way you're laying out your answer is not great. And again, I'll refer you back to the ACCA resources as well. If you can, and if you don't mind, what I'd like to show all of you is, if you can see my screen, rather than, I know we talk about this, James, but just for an example, if I teach, say, SBR, so I go to these study support resources, and I know sometimes you're a bit, really, where do we get this information? If I teach SBR, this is like my go-to place. And I tell students, you must do that as well. They have everything from what, for example, James was talking about the examiner report. That's the first thing that I will do is when I want to know how this exam went. How did this current exam go in March and June 2022? I'll click on that, download that, read information from that, and they tell you such fantastic insights. And I would say the same thing for you, Mansoor. I would say go to your AA, go read up this examiner report. It tells you in detail where things, if you look, it's a 14-page detailed report. And you learn a lot out of that. Not only that, if you're struggling in certain area, maybe there is certain topics that you're struggling with. So go and have a look. For example, there are a lot of technical articles available on those certain topics. So I'm talking about SBR. If you're struggling with, if you're not really aware of the ethics, you don't really know about the framework, which there was a question on, you can always upskill yourself on this without necessarily having to always go to a tuition provider. Of course, that will help you and they do the work for you. But even if you're studying on your own, this will help you achieve that. And what I would recommend all of you to do is you must, I know we say this, but you must go to this practice platform. And if you ask me, James, I spend most of my time on this because this is the best. A lot of people tell me, guys, oh, we'll figure it out in the exam. And that's astonishing because how will you figure it out? Because you need to see here, for example, in my SBR, if I'm doing SBR, I will go and see how this platform looks. What are the questions coming like? Are you comfortable reading all these exhibits, all this information laid out? Are you comfortable with using the spreadsheet function? For Mansoor, and as well as for a friend from Malawi, if you're doing the AFM, are you comfortable using the spreadsheet? What are the functionalities available? And although this is uncomfortable to do, you must go on to this screen. You must practice on that as well. So I just wanted to show that, to be able to highlight that it's not only about talking about it, but genuinely going on to those elements as well.
Yeah, no, spot on. And we've got a few other questions about the ethics and professional skills module as well, Nikhil, where Mark's got a question on it and Shruti has as to Shruti's put, is there an exam that you have to appear for the ethics and professional skills module? And the simple answer to that is no. They're modules which you complete directly through your My ACCA account, and it breaks it down into sort of real world scenarios that you have to make ethical decisions on. And then you have a feedback system. It actually gets checked. I think it also gets reviewed now by other students where they see other answers, where you get to see the ethical responses from other students on there. And then also we have the question from Mark is, is there a dedicated pass rate for it? No, it's the completion of it is the main thing on there for it, Mark, where you have to demonstrate that you've understood the good and bad ethical scenarios given to you. And do you have to require to sit the module in, or can you do it in bits and pieces? And you can do it in bits and pieces. This is why you can do an hour here, an hour there, but they have to get signed off, Mark. That's the thing. But it's also one of the reasons, being honest, as to why people put it off. However, as we said earlier, students who complete the ethics and professional skills module, their percentage chances, and ACCA tell us this, go up passing your exams. That's it. So for me, it would be an absolute no-brainer for you to start and just get the ball rolling. The sooner you do it, the better on there. Yeah. Should we have a look at another question? Okay.
Yes, I think there's a question from Amrita. She had posted to you, and if I can just take that in, because I see a lot of students who are studying or working and studying different options. Amrita's question is that would it be wise to take 2 professional papers? And again, Amrita, the answer is different for everybody. And if you ask me, my opinion to that is, James, that if you're doing something in a September or March sitting, which is a very shorter sitting from the time the results are released to the exam, I would advise people to do 1 professional paper. It's better you do 1 and pass 1 rather than you take 2 and mess up both of them. However, in the December and June sitting, which has a slightly longer time period, or we have like a 9 or 10 week time period, if you can commit to it, it is definitely possible to do 2 professional papers if you have the time for it. Now, again, the disclaimer is, I have students we have students who come from the audit firms, KPMG, Deloitte, and their work season is very difficult. When they have the busy season on, I'm like, no, just maybe do a paper, because you've got to be in the client's place, weekends, running around. At the end of the day, you have to balance everything. I call that word in one, I just say balance. So whatever, sometimes you have a bit more time, you can do 2. There are times, Amrita, that you're tight in your personal life, in your work life, then probably do 1. And use the fact that you have those 4 sittings to manage your life as well. So it depends on your circumstance. I don't know if, James, if you want to add something on that, or are you completely against doing 2?
I know, I agree with that, but the key word I agree is the balance. But the thing you have to be honest with yourself is the available time that you have. Now, if you can do 2 on there, my hat, if I had one on, I'd doff it off to you. But when you're working full time and you've got family commitments and you may have other things planned, and yes, you can pass some of the option papers by the skin of your teeth, but the knowledge that I got from failing advanced taxation and then coming back and doing it by itself, that really made me focus in and really understand the key concepts of it. Because what you don't want to have is that you sort of just about pass it, you graze over some of the areas and stuff, even though you really need to learn them in great detail. And then down the line you go, oh, we kind of covered that, but I'm not really sure about it. But that's where I would always just say, look, there are 4 sittings a year now. In the past, when I did it, we only had 2 sittings, so you sort of were a bit more forced into maybe doing 2. But when you've got 4 sittings now, because you don't want your work balance or your family balance to take a hit for then your studying to be allocated more time. It's all about the balance. Base it on yourself, but then don't have any regrets on it as to, oh gosh, I should have just done 1 and kept my life a bit. But on there, but it looks like we've got another question from on Mark here. So this is regarding the PM or the F5 paper for anyone watching the recording. So Mark scored 41. Does this mean I need to start from scratch and revise everything and then go on to practice questions? So if you got 41, Mark, on PM or any paper for that matter, you've demonstrated some decent knowledge there. It is there, okay? The first thing I'll be thinking of is think back to the exam that you sat when you got that 41 and be honest with yourself. How did it actually go? Did you have good time management? Did section A feel okay? B or C? That's usually the first thing that you have to have an honest conversation about to yourself. Now, from helping PM students pass around the world, I can tell you now, they do not like Section C. Section C is the bit that is marked by the examiner. Sections A and B are multiple choice, but you have to still really focus in and get through it. But Section C is the one where most students that I tutor, they go, James, I really don't like it, but I need to focus in on it. So at the start of the exam, I've got the most amount of energy. I don't want to do it, but I'll do the first Section C questions at the start. Trying to work out the best setup for you on that exam, because you need triggers when to move on. So many students have bad time management. If you read some of the external examiners' reports for PM Mark, they always say at the end of Section C, the written pieces where you have to type it up, students don't even write anything. So they throw away 6 marks. So the best bit of advice I can give you is make sure you've answered 100 marks of that exam, because getting a 50 when you've only answered 85 or 90, I know some students who came and spoke to me afterwards and said, James, I only answered 85 on that, and they got 46, 47. Like, oh, if you'd have just answered the final 15 marks, I'm sure we would have picked up another 3 or 4 that would have got you over the line. So just recoup from it, Mark, on there. Again, to echo what Nikhil said, past papers, CBE platform so that you get better at time management, and then working out when you need to move on from one to the other. So I've done some videos on there. I know the Phoenix team have done some on YouTube as well. Check those out. That gold on there. I'll watch that.
Thanks for that, James. I had one more. There's one more question from Simran coming about the optional level papers.
Yeah.
Which ones to choose, and if I can take that, Simran, I think it's a very, very valid question for everybody listening as well, and later on in the recording. First and foremost, I tell everybody, see, the optional level papers are very challenging. Yeah. So don't let anybody say, oh, this pass rate, that pass rate. At the end of the day, all of them are very challenging. It requires a lot of effort, a lot of high level of technical skills as well. My first bit to you would be, do the paper that you are good at. In the sense, yeah. when I chose ATX, Advanced Taxation, which I don't always recommend people to do. It was probably the hardest exam I did. But the reason I chose it was not anything else, not because, oh, the pass rate was better, I thought, or it was because I was really good at the basic taxation. I understood it well. I had a good sound knowledge of it. Hence, I wanted to do ATX. It interested me as well. I did the second option as AAA, Advanced Audit and Assurance. That time used to be called P7, because I was, again, I enjoyed the audit paper. I was an auditor. I used to work at KPMG, and it's something that fit in well in my life. And to answer your question, Simran, if you ask me very quickly, if you are good at the financial management paper, if you want to do something as a CFA in the future course, if you want to work in the banking and finance industry, then pick up the AFM course. If, like I said, you're good at tax, you want to be, pursue taxation, tax qualification. There are many tax qualifications that you can pursue after that, ATT, etc. Then probably go for the advanced tax, or if you want to do the ICAW qualification, because that gives you quite a few exemptions. The AAA, like I said, if you're the auditor or you're good at AA, and the APM, I would say, is the performance management is. I don't see people usually, there is an interest in it, but it has elements of performance management, elements of SBL, but it's a lot of discussion. Historically, people in this region struggle with that paper as well. It's about expressing, writing. And there are times, if I can say this, that people do that paper when they really don't know which other option to do. They've done AFM, but they don't like audit, they don't like tax. They're like, okay, let's go for the APM. But I would say first do that approach, Simran. See what interests you, see what you're good at. And then, of course, look at the other elements as well. Just if you're doing advanced tax, as a disclaimer, it is a lot of content. So don't just get excited by pass rate, because when you look at the pass rate, it's the UK pass rate, whereby people who are working in practice. So James, for us as a disclaimer here, we're just getting taxation, corporate tax next year. It's not something people are used to seeing since a young age. Whereas when I was back in the UK, it was very commonplace. You do taxation in university, and you're used to it. You know what it is. You work in practice with it. So the pass rates are higher, but it's also skewed to the fact that a lot of people in the UK are doing it who are reasonably better at it than you and me based in this region.
Yeah, no, I did tax on that, and I can tell you it's a very chunky book, but it was one of the most rewarding exams that you can do, in my opinion. So it's one of those where I look back on it and go, it was the hardest exam I ever did, but it was most worthwhile and the one I appreciated the most on there. So if anyone's got any other final questions on there, and we are slightly approaching the 2 o'clock on my mark. I mean, Nikhil, where does the time go on there? I hope everyone's enjoyed today's webinar. But thank you all for the lovely comments in the chat on there. Are there any other final points, Nikhil, you'd like to make?
No, just like to say thank you to everybody for joining in, taking out time. And if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with James or myself at the team. I'll put in our details as well. So if you're ever interested, you want to reach out, feel free to get in touch with us. I'll put up, like I said, the details, and the recording will also be available for all of you to watch later on. And thank you very much, like I said. And thank you, James. Anything you would like to say? I just want to thank you for your time as well, for giving us all your time. I know you're super busy, and thanks again for your wonderful insights and your talk as well.
Lovely. Oh no, well, honestly, thank you so much, Nikhil, and to all of the Phoenix team for inviting me today, and to all the students who have joined in, along with watching the recording on this. So like I said, if you've got any other questions, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, all my stuff's out there as well. And also keep an eye out that myself and the Phoenix team will be doing more events. So get in touch with them, get on their mail list so that you can interact with the team. We'll be putting on more things to help you out. And feel free to share the video recording with any of your study buddies or friends on there, because it could help them out. It could just be that little nugget of information that if they didn't quite make it to this one, hey, they can come to another, and myself, Nikhil, or any of the team will be more than happy to help you out. But yeah, leave us a comment in the recording of this video, and thank you very much for joining us. I hope you all have a super day and a lovely weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, James. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Cheers.